So Responsive Resize is a relatively new feature, and that's what we're going to be covering in this lesson. So here I have my wireframe and then my finished design, and I want to make a tablet version of this so I can go ahead and test this out on my iPad. So I want to be able to scale this up and without having to redesign this from scratch and change everything and the size of everything. So that's where Responsive Resize is going to take effect. So I'm going to select the design tablet and I'm going to make sure that Responsive Resize is actually activated. Now, as I scale, for the most part, Adobe XD is doing a great way of scaling this out so that I have to do very minimal adjustments to this design to actually make it look good on an iPad screen like this. So I'm going to quickly hit Command or Control Z to undo this. So as we scaled this out, you'll notice some of the elements don't have a behavior that we would expect. For example, this US dollar drop-down menu slid over a little too far. The spacing in between these elements shouldn't change. So what we're going to do is switch this from auto to manual. And what this is going to allow you to do is you can fix this based on these points on the screen. So for example, if I wanted to fix this only to the right, as I scale up now, you'll notice that it is now scaled to the right. And it's keeping the same distance here between these two objects. But where we messed up is we only adjusted the rectangle. We need to group these elements together and then fix the Responsive Resize. So I'm going to select these, Command G, and then we'll switch this over to manual and we'll select Fix Right. So now if I select my artboard and I scale this out, this behaves a little bit more of what you would expect. So we would want the total now to behave in a similar manner. So I'm going to select total, switch it over to manual, and pin this to the bottom and the right. So you'll notice that we're also pinning this to the bottom. If I were to remove this, when we scale this down, the total is not going to stick where it should. So you'll see it's actually sliding up where the rest are staying pinned down. So for this one, we would want to make sure that it's pinned to the right and to the bottom so that our Responsive Resize is a little bit more accurate. Now, the last thing I want to do with this design is I want to keep the spacing between all of these. It's kind of spreading them out way too far. So what I'm going to actually do is ungroup this group with Command Shift G. And I'm going to select the last element and I'm actually going to repeat grid on this because what this is doing is the user is able to swipe on this to choose the client that they want. I just have add client as a placeholder. So there would be multiple clients here. So I'm going to drag over. First, let's check the spacing between these elements. 8 pixels. So we'll drag this to 8 pixels. And I'll just drag this way over to about there. So now if we resize this, we're still getting a little weirdness going on. So what we need to do is group these elements back together, Command G, and I'm going to switch this to manual, and I'm actually going to pin this on the left only. You'll see we have pin right for some reason. I don't want to do that. Let's actually fix the width. Now if I drag out, we get the change that we're actually looking for. So that is how the Responsive Resize works. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Just make sure that if you're not happy with the result as you're resizing something in Adobe XD, you can switch it over to manual and play with how it's pinned and played with how the width of the elements is fixed. All Responsive Resize is doing is saving you time. It's not a direct fix for the design. You're going to have to make adjustments from here, but it gets you a good starting point so that you don't have to totally redesign an app for an iPad, for example. That's it for this lesson. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.